Ever get that feeling when you read something and it's like, whoa, this is important?
Yeah, definitely.
That's what happened with this book.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, you gave me these excerpts, and this expert, get this, he predicted the 2008 housing crisis.
Wow.
Like 18 months before it happened.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So we're going to deep dive into his insights.
Okay.
Not just to rehash, the past, but to see if there are any similar storm clouds,
Yeah.
gathering
Makes
on
sense.
the economic horizon today.
So this is like a looking for patterns from the past kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what can we learn from what he saw that maybe, other people missed?
Right. Right.
And what's fascinating is this expert wasn't just some, fortune teller with a crystal ball.
Uh-huh.
He held this training workshop back in 2007
Okay.
for, financial professionals.
Gotcha.
And just straight up warned them
About
this, impending economic inferno fueled by foreclosures.
wow.
And we all know he was totally right.
You nailed it. Yeah.
It's kind of chilling when you think about it.
It is. It is.
That he saw it coming
Yeah.
when so many others missed it.
Mm-mm.
And so he talks about these economic, storm clouds,
Why not?
things to watch out for that might signal,
Trouble ahead.
yeah, rough waters ahead.
Exactly.
I don't know, if you see dark clouds rolling and
You know a storm's coming.
you got to grab an umbrella, right?
Right, exactly.
So one of the biggest storm clouds that he points to
Yeah.
was the crazy lending practices
Okay.
back in the early 2000s.
Oh?
Imagine a world where you could just walk into a bank,
Uh-huh.
say whatever you wanted about your income,
Yeah.
and walk out with a mortgage.
Like no proof or anything.
That's basically what was happening
Really?
with these stated income loans.
Oh, wow.
No proof required, just your word.
Wow. So it's like, just take their word for it.
And he even tells the story about a mortgage broker
Yeah.
practically pushing him to lie on his application.
What? Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So encouraging him to.
Yeah, hey, just inflate your income a little bit. It's no big deal.
Wow. That's crazy.
Right.
Yeah.
So people were just making up their income.
That's wild. It's like.
It sounds like playing pretend,
Yeah.
but with real life consequences.
Right. Because
A
if.
huge consequence.
Yeah. If the banks aren't verifying anything.
Right.
And everyone's just inflating their income to get these huge loans,
Right.
you'd be tempted to do it too, right?
Of course.
Yeah.
And that's
Especially if everyone else is doing it.
that's the moral hazard he talks about.
Yeah.
When there's no downside to this risky behavior,
Right.
everyone's going to gamble.
Yeah.
And in this case, the gamble was on housing prices.
Going up forever.
Yeah, going up forever.
But guess what?
What happened?
The
Yeah.
bubble burst,
Yeah.
and a lot of
Gotta get
people
burned.
got burned.
Yeah.
So how do we avoid falling into that everyone's doing it trap?
Right.
Especially when it comes to our money.
Yeah, it's so easy to get caught up in that.
Right.
He calls it the everyone's jumping off a bridge scenario.
I love that.
Yeah. Just because everyone else is doing something
Yeah.
doesn't mean you should too.
Right.
It's about taking a step back,
Right.
doing your own research,
Mm-hmm.
and not letting fear of missing out cloud your judgment.
Oh, that FOMO is real.
It is.
I can see how easy it would be to get caught up
Yeah, absolutely.
in the hype.
You just want to be part of the group.
Right.
Yeah, but he's saying think for yourself, don't be a sheep.
Yeah. Don't be a sheep.
Exact.
All right, so that's one storm cloud.
Mm-hmm.
But then he identifies another major one,
Okay.
the national debt.
Ooh, yeah.
And he doesn't mince words.
How do you mean? He calls it a potential cataclysm of apocalyptic proportions.
Wow. Okay, so he's pretty serious.
He's pretty concerned about this.
Yeah, he even references this 2010 news article
Okay.
projecting these huge budget shortfalls.
Oh, wow.
So what happens when a country's debt gets out of control?
Well, one possibility is a credit downgrade.
Okay.
Think of it like your own credit score, right?
Uh-huh.
If you're not paying your bills on time,
Yeah.
lenders are going to be a little wary,
Yeah.
and they might charge you a higher interest rate.
Right. Because you're a risk.
Exactly. You're a bigger risk.
Makes sense.
And it's the same for countries.
Really?
Yeah, a credit downgrade basically means
Okay.
lenders are going to be less willing to lend them money.
And that makes it more expensive for that country to borrow.
Exactly.
And then that could have a domino effect, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Higher borrowing costs for the government
Mm.
could lead to cuts in services
Right.
or even higher taxes for everyone. Exactly. Yeah. And it can also shake investor confidence.
Oh, right, because if people start worrying about a country's ability to repay its debts, they're going to pull their money out.
Right, exactly, which can further destabilize the economy.
So it's all connected.
It's all connected, yeah.
So how do we address this looming debt crisis?
Right. That's the big question.
Well, the author gives us two options,
Okay.
neither of which are particularly appealing.
Oh, no.
Spend less or tax more?
Ooh, those are the two choices.
Which one sounds more likely to you?
I don't know. Tough choices.
He seems pretty skeptical
About
spending cuts actually happening.
Okay.
And he seems to suggest that
Yeah.
tax increases might be the only way out.
Wow. So maybe...
Not the most popular opinion, I'm sure.
Yeah, not a popular stance,
Right.
but maybe that's what needs to happen.
Right.
Yeah.
But both of those are politically challenging, right?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I mean, cutting spending means making tough choices.
Yeah.
You know, which programs to fund, which to cut,
Right.
always leads to public outcry.
Right. And then raising taxes?
Yeah.
Nobody likes that either.
No, nobody wants to pay more taxes.
Feels like you're being punished.
Yeah, like you're being punished for the government's overspending.
Right.
But, I mean, doing nothing,
Is that even worse?
arguably. Yeah,
That's a tough spot to be in.
it is.
It seems like there are no easy answers.
No easy answers when it comes to money,
Right.
especially when it comes to a country's finances.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So we've talked about some pretty heavy stuff.
yeah.
Shaky lending practices, everyone's jumping off a bridge trap,
Uh-huh.
and a potential debt crisis.
I'm starting to get a little anxious.
Me too.
It's a lot.
I know, but
Yeah.
remember, the goal here isn't to scare you.
Okay.
It's to empower you.
Okay.
The more you understand about these economic forces,
Yeah.
the better equipped you'll be to make informed decisions
Right.
about your own financial well-being.
Makes sense.
Okay, that makes me feel a little bit better.
Yeah.
It's all about, taking control,
Right.
not just letting the waves...
Talk you around.
Yeah, talk us around.
Yeah.
But what about you?
Yeah.
What stands out to you from what we've discussed so far? Are you seeing any parallels between
Let me think.
what happened in the past
Okay.
and what's happening in the economy today?
That's a good question.
Let's continue this conversation in part 2.
Sounds good.
Okay, so we've uncovered some potential storm clouds
Yeah.
on the economic horizon based on, this expert's insights,
Right.
but just like a real storm. It's not, constant downpour,
Right.
right? There are breaks, even moments of sunshine.
Yeah, that's a great analogy.
Yeah.
Economic cycles.
Yeah.
With their ups and downs, really.
Mhm.
Periods of growth and contraction
Mhm.
and understanding this natural rhythm,
Yeah.
I think really helps us prepare for those.
Yeah.
Inevitable rainy days
Right.
and make the most of the sunny ones.
So how do we actually apply
Right.
these lessons from the past to
Yeah.
the present? I mean, things are different now
They are.
than they were
Yeah.
back in the early 2000s, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
But there are often echoes of the past
Mhm.
in present day trends.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
for example, the author highlighted
Yeah.
the danger of those loose lending practices, right?
Right.
Are we seeing anything similar today?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Maybe not to the same extent,
Yeah.
but are there areas where risk is being downplayed or overlooked?
That's a good question for our listener to ponder.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah. Are there any parallels that you see
Yeah.
between that,
That Wild West of lending
that Wild West?
that he described
Yeah.
and the financial landscape today.
Right. It makes you wonder, what are we not paying enough attention to right now?
Right.
What are we missing?
Exactly. And it's not just about
Right.
spotting those potential threats. It's
Right.
about understanding
Right.
the root causes of economic instability.
Exactly.
Remember everyone's jumping off a bridge analogy?
Oh, yeah, that was a good one.
That herd mentality
Yeah.
can lead to these speculative bubbles where prices get inflated based on hype rather than real value.
It's like we're all just following each other
Right.
blindly.
So how do we, as individuals, cultivate that independent thinking
Right.
and avoid getting swept up in those
Yeah.
kinds of frenzy?
I guess it comes down to,
Yeah.
not blindly following the crowd,
Right.
doing your own research,
Mm-hmm.
maybe seeking advice from a financial advisor you trust.
Right.
It's about being comfortable with saying,
Yeah.
hey, this doesn't feel right to me.
Yeah.
Even when everyone else seems to be jumping on board.
Right.
Sometimes the smartest move is to, resist that pull of the
Yeah.
crowd.
Yeah, that fear of missing out.
Yeah, FOMO.
Right.
Exactly.
And speaking of forces that, shape the economy,
Mhm.
the author also talks about
Yeah.
the role of government,
Right.
particularly when it comes to managing the national debt.
Oh, yeah. He had some strong opinions on that.
He did. He seemed to be like really pushing for higher taxes
Okay.
as a solution.
Interesting. But honestly,
Yeah,
the whole debt thing feels like a giant political football,
it does.
right?
Yeah,
Is there even a way to talk about it
I know.
without getting into these like political arguments?
Right, right.
Well, I mean, the fact is,
Yeah,
government spending and taxation,
yeah,
they have a huge impact on the overall economy, right?
right.
Whether we like it or not.
Yeah,
Those decisions made, in Washington affect our daily lives.
right.
And it's, I think, important for us as citizens
Yeah,
to understand those implications,
right.
regardless of our,
Political leaning.
political leanings.
So how do we even begin to unpack that?
Right.
It's such a
It's a complex issue
complex.
with so many different viewpoints.
Right, right.
I think it starts with being informed.
Okay.
What are the arguments for and against different approaches,
Mm-hmm.
to managing the debt?
Right,
What are the potential consequences of inaction?
right.
And then,
Yeah.
engage in those conversations,
Mm-hmm.
not just with people who agree with you,
Right.
but with those who hold,
Different perspectives.
different perspectives.
Okay, I'm sensing a theme here.
What's that?
Being informed.
Yeah.
Thinking critically.
Mm-hmm.
Taking responsibility. It's not just about understanding the economy.
Yeah.
It's about empowering ourselves.
Exactly. And that leads to another, I think, key takeaway from the author,
Okay.
this idea of personal responsibility.
Oh, interesting.
It's not enough to just understand,
Yeah.
the big picture.
The macro.
Yeah, the macroeconomic forces at play.
Yeah.
We also need to take ownership
Mm-hmm.
of our individual financial decisions.
So it's like, okay,
Yeah.
there might be storm clouds out there,
Right.
but I'm going to make sure
Yeah.
my own financial house is in order.
Exactly. It's about developing those good financial habits.
Right. Like what?
Saving, budgeting,
Mm-hmm.
managing debt wisely,
Yeah.
investing for the long term. These things can help us weather any economic storm,
Yeah.
whether it's a global crisis
Yeah.
or a personal setback.
But that can be a lot easier said than done.
It can.
Life throws curveballs.
Yeah.
Unexpected expenses pop up. And let's be honest,
Yeah.
sometimes it's just easier to swipe the credit card.
Yeah.
Then think about those long-term consequences.
Absolutely.
So how do we stay motivated and focused
right.
on those long-term goals
Uh-huh.
when there's so much pressure to
Yeah.
live in the moment?
It's definitely a challenge.
Right.
But I think it's important to remember that
Yeah.
even small steps can make a big difference over time.
Okay.
Start with one habit you want to change,
Mm.
one area you want to improve.
Okay.
Maybe it's, tracking your spending for a month,
Yeah.
setting up an automatic savings plan,
Right.
or even just talking to a financial advisor
Yeah.
to create a plan that aligns with your goals.
So it's about progress,
Yeah.
not perfection.
Exactly.
And finding what works for you, not
Yeah.
trying to fit into some
Yeah.
one-size-fits-all mold.
Exactly. And remember,
Yeah.
you don't have to do it alone.
Oh, that's good.
There are tons of resources available to help you.
Like what?
Online tools, financial literacy workshops,
Yeah.
even just talking to a friend or family member
Right.
who's good with money.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Sometimes just having someone to bounce ideas off of
Right.
and hold you accountable
Hold you accountable. Yeah,
can make a big difference.
absolutely.
It's about building a support system,
Yeah.
a community of people
Uh-huh.
who are also striving for
Yeah.
financial well-being.
And financial well-being.
It's because at the end of the day,
Yeah.
we're all in this together,
We are.
right? Navigating this
Okay.
complex economic world.
Absolutely. A complex world.
All right, that's a good reminder.
Yeah.
So we've covered a lot of ground in this part,
We have.
from connecting the dots between past and present
Uh-huh.
to understanding the role of government
Yeah.
and taking personal responsibility
Mm-hmm.
for our financial future.
What are your thoughts so far?
What's resonating with you most strongly?
Yeah. What are you thinking?
Are you seeing any areas where you want to
Uh-huh.
make changes or take action?
It's a good time to reflect.
Take a moment, reflect on what we've discussed.
Yeah.
What are your takeaways?
Mm-hmm.
What steps are you going to take to be more informed,
Right.
more proactive,
Wow.
more in control of your financial destiny?
Your financial destiny. That's a good one.
And remember, this is an ongoing conversation.
It is.
We'll be back soon with part 3,
Yes, we will.
where we'll delve into some specific solutions that the author proposes for averting an economic crisis.
Thanks, good.
And we'll talk about practical steps you can take to build a more secure financial future.
Looking forward to it.
Until then, keep those questions coming.
Yeah.
And stay curious.
Stay curious.
Welcome back to the final part.
Final part, yeah.
Of our deep dive into this, eye-opening book.
Yeah, it's been pretty fascinating.
We've talked about spotting those economic warning signs.
Right.
Taking charge of our own, finances.
Taking control.
But now I'm really curious about the solutions this expert proposes.
Okay, yeah.
He did see the 2008 crisis coming.
He did.
So what does he say we should do?
Well, he doesn't shy away from offering solutions.
Good.
Even if they're not always easy to, to swallow, right?
Right.
Remember how we discussed the national debt looming large?
Yeah, that was a big one.
He basically lays out two main paths to tackle it.
Okay.
Either we spend less as a country, or we bring in more revenue through taxes.
Okay, so spend less or tax more.
Basically, yeah.
And neither option is exactly a crowd pleaser.
No, not really.
Cutting spending usually means essential services or programs take a hit.
It's going to be cut somewhere.
And raising taxes, well,
yeah.
Nobody likes handing over more of their hard-earned money.
Right, it's tough.
Yeah, so it's a real dilemma.
It is.
And honestly, I think both sides of the argument have, valid points.
Valid points.
But he seems to lean towards tax increases, at least based on what he wrote back then.
Okay, back then.
But it makes you wonder if that's a politically realistic solution,
right? Or
if it's just shifting the burden.
Right, just passing it on.
It's a big question,
yeah.
And probably one with no easy answer.
No easy answers.
But I think it's important for us as individuals to at least understand the implications of each approach.
I agree.
If spending cuts happen, what areas are likely to be impacted?
Right, where are they going to cut?
And if taxes go up, who's going to bear the brunt of that increase?
Exactly, those are the questions.
Exactly. Yeah. It's about being informed and engaged in these conversations, even if they can get
messy.
Messy and political.
Absolutely.
Because ultimately, these decisions made at the national level, they have a ripple effect.
They do, on all of us.
On everyone, yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about potential solutions for the debt, but he also had some pretty strong warnings about the consequences of a U.S. credit downgrade.
Oh, right.
Remember he used some dramatic language?
Yeah.
Talking about a potential cataclysm of apocalyptic proportions?
Okay, so do you think he was being overly dramatic?
Do you think he was being overly dramatic?
Or are those concerns warranted?
It's easy to dismiss strong language as hyperbole, but I think he was trying to convey the gravity of the situation.
Right, this is serious.
A credit downgrade for the U.S. would be a major loss of confidence in the global financial system.
Right, because
think about it. The U.S. dollar, it's the world's reserve currency.
Exactly. So
if people start questioning its stability,
it could have
far-reaching
consequences.
Yeah, consequences for everyone.
So it's not just about the U.S.
It's global.
It's about the interconnectedness of the global economy.
Right. One country's crisis can quickly become everyone's problem.
Yeah, like a financial domino effect.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
But before we wrap up, I'm curious.
Yeah.
What are some practical steps we can take to navigate this complex economic landscape?
Complex economic landscape.
It's easy to feel overwhelmed.
It is.
By all this information.
It's a lot to process.
So what does that look like in practice?
Okay, so
what are some concrete things our listeners can do
to
feel more in control?
Well, I think first and foremost, stay informed.
Okay, how?
Pay attention to economic news. Read articles and books, like the one we've been discussing, and maybe even take a financial literacy course.
Okay.
The more you know, the better you'll be able to, spot those storm clouds on the horizon.
So don't bury your head in the sand.
Yeah, exactly.
Stay aware of what's happening.
Be aware.
What else?
Next, create a plan for your own finances.
Okay.
Figure out where your money is going. Set up a budget, and make sure you're saving for your future goals.
Right.
Whether that's retirement, buying a house,
or
even just having a comfortable emergency fund.
So it's about being proactive,
Yeah.
not reactive.
Exactly.
Taking control instead of just letting things happen.
Don't be passive, yeah.
And don't be afraid to seek out help.
Right.
Talk to a financial advisor.
Uh-huh.
Ask questions.
Ask questions, yeah.
Don't be afraid to admit when you don't know something.
Right, there's no shame in that.
There's no shame in asking for guidance. This has been an incredibly insightful deep dive.
I agree, yeah.
We've gone from potential economic infernos to practical steps for taking control of our financial lives.
I hope it's left you feeling empowered rather than discouraged.
Yeah, me too.
Because at the end of the day, we all have the ability to make choices that lead to a more secure and fulfilling financial future.
That's a great note to end on.
It is.
Remember, the economy is always in flux.
Always changing.
But your own financial well-being is something you can directly influence.
You have control over that.
Stay informed.
Yeah.
Stay engaged.
Stay engaged, yeah.
And keep learning.
Keep learning.
We'll see you next time.
See you next time.
On The Deep Dive.
On The Deep Dive.